Hi, everyone. It's Christine Gritmon here, live with Social. I come at you live every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, talking with a guest about social media, digital marketing, personal branding, all that good stuff. And today I have here my friend Simon Raybould joining me from the UK. Hi, Simon.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for delaying that Friday evening pint to join us at 5 p.m. Although, who says you delayed it, really?
There is a glass of wine with my name on it downstairs right
and I
now.
mean, you could have pre-gamed. Who knows? I'm actually going to be with Simon next week.
Yeah.
As many of you know, I'm going to England for Atomicon, Andrew and Pete's awesome first ever conference that they're throwing themselves. I'm going to be speaking. But the day before that, I'm going to Simon's workshop, which is about presentation. So why don't you just tell us a bit about that before we get going with our discussion?
There's a little bit of me that's going, if you're coming to see me the day before you're doing a speaking gig, we're cutting it really fine.
That is true. Well, I'm luckily already awesome at presenting, but I could always get more awesomer.
Awesome. Awesomer. Is awesome a real word?
No.
What? No. Okay. So what it is, it's what I do full time, all day, every day is train people in how to make better presentations, how to be a better presenter. Mm-hmm. I tend not to work with full-time professional speakers because some of them are a little bit up themselves.
Yep.
I tend to work a little bit more with real people, the kind of people who do what they do and then have to speak about it. So they kind of, I don't know, maybe they get promoted and they stop being an accountant and they start being an accountant manager or something. You get the idea, kind of real people who are making presentations.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, I mean, my background is as a research scientist, so I spent a long time. Do you not know that?
No.
I spent 24 years in research. My PhD is in the causes of childhood leukemias.
Whoa.
So I spent 24 years as a research scientist. So the big thing that makes me different from most presentations trainers is that most guys just go, "This is what works for me."
Yeah.
And I don't do that. I go, "This is what the research says works for most people most of the time," which is a different kettle of fish.
And one of the things that people say works for most people most of the time is presenting with confidence, right? And having that basis of confidence behind how you're presenting. And that works not only if you're standing in front of a room giving a PowerPoint or a Prezi presentation about something, but it also works, for your personal branding, for your digital marketing, any place that you have a professional presence. Confidence is really a thing to lead with, right?
Let's face it. If we didn't have enough confidence, you and I couldn't be doing this now.
No, we couldn't.
So there's a confidence for us to get to reach out to each other. There's a confidence for us to get to know each other. There's the confidence for us to become confident enough in each other to be friends. Mm-hmm. Then there's the confidence enough to broadcast.
I love
and
that.
That's a long list. Every single step requires some kind of confidence or a developing confidence.
It really does. And that's really a stopping point for a lot of people. The reason a lot of people don't get started with that Facebook profile or don't get started, going live online or don't get started giving presentations to begin with. I know that giving workshops and presentations and doing talks is becoming a huge part of my business this year in particular. And you know what? If you don't have the confidence to go for those things, and if you feel like you can't do it, you can't do it. So let's talk about some basics. First of all, what do we mean by confidence?
Okay, we define confidence as the inner feeling of being able to cope with something. And that the something is quite important because different people are confident at different things. And there's this really weird but very, very generalized myth that you're either confident or you're not. And the research is very clear that that's... Can I check the rating of this show? Can I swear?
You can say bollocks.
I can say bollocks. Okay, that's utter bollocks. Because people are sometimes confident in different things. So, for example, my wife and I are confident in different things. Mm-hmm. I am physically much more confident than she is, but she is socially much more confident than I am. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we just spent some time working and then traveling in India, and neither of us speaks any of the native languages of Indian, but because she can speak other languages, she was more confident at having a go. Whereas when it comes to crossing the roads in Delhi, which are frankly bonkers, because I'm more confident physically, I was much more capable of kind of taking her by the hand and leading her on. So this idea that you're either a confident person or you're not is tosh and bollocks. We have different levels of confidence in different things, and sometimes that is related to competence, but depressingly less often than it should be.
And we all know that all too well.
Yeah, the statistical relationship between competence and confidence is approaching zero.
Well, not for all of us. Some of us think we're awesome because we're awesome, you know?
Yeah.
But so to that end,
let me introduce you to something called the Dunning-Kruger curve at this point.
Yes. Explain that for the folks at home.
Okay, Dunning-Kruger were two research scientists who pointed out that the relationship between how good you think you are and how good you actually are is small but negative. So those people who think that they are really good at stuff are actually more likely to be rubbish than those people who think they're crap at it.
As anyone who has been on Twitter or Reddit or anything for any real length of time, and especially those who have gotten into political discussions, are quite aware.
Yep. The number of taxi drivers I've been in taxis with who could run the football team or run the country better than the football managers or the prime ministers or whatever, because they know so little about it. They don't know how which is one of the big learnings about confidence, to be honest. The fact that you might think you're crap at it is almost certainly an indication that you're not.
They say that about motherhood. I have to say, like, a lot of people say, if you worry about if you're a good mom, you probably are. And that's true for a lot of it. If you're worried that you're good about if you're a good presenter, if you're worried if you're a good coach.
Absolutely. Those people who don't worry about it are just, well, I'm trying to avoid the word stupid, but
they have different standards. Different standards.
Let's go with different standards. Yeah, they have different standards. They have different standards to normal people.
Yeah.
They're sociopathic, basically. They're just sociopathic, or in charge of the country, or for at least one of our countries. Both of those things are true, actually, for both of our countries. But there's this big idea is that the more worried you are about your ability to do things, it actually is probably a really good indicator, reasonably good indicator, that you're actually okay at it.
So step one is worry.
Step one is just, or at least recognize that worry is a good thing. Worry is a normal thing. If you're not worried, with my tongue in my cheek, if you're not worried, that's when you should be worried.
That's fair.
You know, it's those people who
I'm not worried about Atomicon. Am I screwed?
I think you're amongst friends at Atomicon. You're amongst friends at Atomicon. And actually, do you know that that brings me to another point about presenting or communicating or networking or whatever it is. Sometimes getting confident at it means that it's, and this is really counterintuitive, it is easier to do it with strangers than it is with people who know you.
I hear that.
Yeah. Because if I screw up in front of 600 strangers, I just get on the train and I go away, and that's it. If I screw up in front of 6 friends, I have to see them again and again and again and again.
And if you're subpar in front of strangers, perhaps you'll be forgettable.
Yeah. The worst that can happen is they go, well, he was rubbish, and forget about him. But if you screw up in front of a dozen friends, or worse still, a dozen people who are not friends but who know you. Yeah. So work colleagues. Work colleagues is a classic example. You're going to see them again and again and again, and it affects your reputation into the future. So one of the things we advise people to do when they're developing confidence for presenting or networking or working the social media or whatever it is don't do the instinctive thing, which is to go where you feel safe. Because the places you feel safe are almost certainly the places where you've got friends. Yeah. That's why you feel safe.
And the stakes are, interestingly enough, higher.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're going for your first networking meeting, for example, practice networking meetings somewhere 50 miles away where nobody knows you and you've got no chance of getting any work.
That is fascinating advice.
Well, it's counterintuitive, but as soon as you think about the logic of it, it makes sense. Because if you screw up there, what's the worst that can happen?
That is true.
You don't get any work that you wouldn't have got anyway. Whereas if you screw up in your local networking team, you don't get work that kind of, I like Tim Lewis has said, so is the advice to have no friends. Tim, genius, absolute genius.
Well, Tim is failing miserably at that.
Yes, Tim's an irritating, nice guy.
He's always part of a crowd there.
Yep.
I feel miserably at that as well, but that's okay. So one thing is to to go out of your safety zone, because the stakes are lower in a lot of ways. So what's another tip for people who, don't feel confident yet, but who want to project confidence?
Just recognize that nobody is confident. Everybody is making it up as they go along. Have you read Michelle Obama's book yet?
It's on my nightstand.
Right, because she makes this is the ex-first lady of the most powerful country in the world going, I suffer from imposter syndrome.
It's not just the ex-first lady, because really there isn't a very high bar there. It's a Harvard law professor.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's such an accomplished human being. Another quote that I really heard is the writer Neil Gaiman.
Not personally, but yeah.
So the author Neil Gaiman, who is amazing, he tells a story of how he was at an event once, and it was full of all these luminaries in the arts and government and just all these incredible people. And he was sort of to the side because he was sitting there like, I don't belong here. I've just made up some stories and some people like that, but I don't belong among all these people who've really done actual things. And he found himself, having a chat with someone. They struck up a conversation based on their shared first name. And the other guy said, "Oh, I don't feel like I belong here either. I mean, all I did was I happened to be the first man who walked on the moon. I mean," so he was like, if Neil Armstrong can feel imposter syndrome, there's hope for us all.
Yeah, I once did some work with a group of people I was training, and they were all from the same organization. Mm-hmm. And I asked them all the question, in private, I asked them a question, how close do you feel to the center of things? Okay, so if the center of things is, I know everything that is going on in this organization, and I am competent, and I know what I'm doing, and I know what the organization is doing, how close to that, relative to, and this is the key bit, relative to everybody else in the organization.
And that is really key. Yeah.
Do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And 10 was, I am the key person, I know everything. And 0 is, I know absolutely nothing, I'm just a temporary intern. The average was 3.
That was exactly the number I had in my head as a guess.
Everybody thought that everybody else knows what's going on, if you see what I mean. Because as Tim points out, everyone sees the things in other people that they haven't done, and they don't recognize the things in themselves that they have done. So one of the things we quite often talk about when you're trying to develop confidence is just to write down the things that have gone well. I mean, it sounds stupid, but bear with me, because we are environmentally, evolutionarily predisposed to remember the things that go wrong. We've evolved to be sensitive to the negative because, let me give you an example, a really silly example I tell from the stage once. Suppose, let's go back 100,000 years, whatever. I'm Cro-Magnon man. I turn up. I see a raspberry bush. I have no idea why I'm picking on raspberries. I see a raspberry bush. It's not ripe, but I'm so hungry, I eat the raspberries anyway. So I get diarrhea and vomiting and nearly die. And in the jargon, we call that negative stroke. But 2 weeks later, I come back, and the raspberries are delicious. And we call that a positive stroke. Next year, when I see that raspberry bush again, which of those 2 things am I more likely to remember? The one that nearly killed me, or the one that tasted nice for 30 seconds?
Yep.
So we have evolved to be more sensitive to the negative stuff, which means that all the stuff that goes okay, or just goes normally, or just goes well enough, our brains just go, that was fine, and we forget about it.
Yeah.
We remember the bad stuff. We think we're crap because we only remember the crap. So this idea of writing down, this is not my idea. This is a guy, Professor Martin Seligman first observed this. You just write down the days when things go okay. Don't write down the good days. Just write down the okay days. Monday, yeah, it was okay. Tuesday, yeah, it was okay. Wednesday, crap day. Thursday, okay. Friday, okay. Saturday, Sunday, okay. And you realize that your life actually is 9 points okay,
yeah,
and 1 part, just 1 part crap.
To that end, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine.
To that end, one thing that I suffer from anxiety, and sometimes I get so into my own head, overthinking, and thinking about all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to really, get myself back on track, and I say, okay, think about circumstances where things actually did go worst case scenario. And you wouldn't think it from my personality, but I can go in very dark places. So worst case scenario is literally not possible in many cases because I have a good imagination. But I say, okay, think about the times when things went the worst possible way. And then I say, think about the times when things went the best possible way, when the best possible scenario within the realms of realism actually came true. And the ratio is just staggering. I don't think the worst case scenario has literally ever happened to me. And the best case scenario happens a crazy amount of time.
And I think it's more sophisticated than that because while you're absolutely right, there's that middle ground of it went okay.
And that's important to look at too, because the fact is, otherwise, if you're looking at that best case scenario, that may not happen. But happens a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's suppose that the best case scenario for this video is that it gets 1 million views, it goes viral, and we become famous. That's the best case scenario. In our heart of hearts, we both know that's not going to happen, but that's in theoretical the best case scenario. And if that doesn't happen, we feel like failures.
I feel okay.
Because we've defined, we defined success in that regard. So a better thing than
I've got one viewer. I'm cool.
Okay, that's cool. And he doesn't like either of us. That's fine. And a better. Oh, it's just me doesn't like. Okay, and a better target then would be that went well enough. Yeah. So you say what does good enough look like? What does good enough look like? Have I hit good enough rather than have I hit the best it can be? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't plan to be the best you can be. I'm saying you should assess yourself against good enough. So, for example, last year, I did the opening presentation to the Professional Speaking Association of the UK and Ireland. So these are professional speakers, and I'm opening their national training conference, and I'm making a presentation in front of 200 professional speakers about how to make better presentations. The stakes are, frankly, as high as it can get.
Yeah.
Now, best case scenario there is a standing ovation and they all book me to do personal coaching with them. Worst case scenario is that they hate me. But okay scenario is that I get enough positive comments and feedback out of that to get enough bookings or to be able to justify my conference fee or whatever it is. But the idea is that I set an okay target. I have done enough rather than... I've not cured cancer. I have just made people better, if you see what I mean. Can I just check something technical? I can see there's a couple of comments have cropped up, but I don't have a way on my screen here of seeing the comments. So if anybody's commenting to me, I can't respond to them.
Tim's just commenting on the general stuff.
Okay, cool.
when you do the worst case scenario, you do know it. And then you wonder about all the crap you were worrying about. And that's very true. It's interesting. So I really like that concept of thinking about what okay means and tracking the okay. I think that's a really great tip that I haven't really heard before, which is fantastic.
Well, it stands for presentations or videos or recordings or whatever it is. You don't have to make the best recording in the world. You just have to make a recording to go live on YouTube or whatever, which is good enough to do what it is you want it to do.
You need to not suck worse than everyone else has sucked.
It would be nice to be perfect, but frankly, let's just settle for good enough.
I like that.
And one of the problems with social media and presenting and communicating is that most people don't have well enough defined targets.
True.
If you ask them, what are you trying to do? They go, well, I don't know. I just want as many people as possible to see this. Well, if you don't know what success looks like, how the hell are you ever going to celebrate it? How are you ever going to know that you've done well enough?
I'm pretty bad with that. I am very bad with setting my goals. My goal in a lot of situations is just not to suck. And this year I really am raising that goal a lot more. I'm really trying to give more thought as to what I want to get out of opportunities as opposed to just being like, well, I took the opportunity because there was one. That's a low bar of success. It's a lovely bar to clear. Because some people don't even clear that. But yeah, absolutely. I do need to work on that. We are going to have so many talks next week. You really can't scurry out of the parties because we need to.
I'm working with you on Thursday afternoon till 4:30 UK time. I have a Spanish class at 5:30. so I'm going to love you and leave you and scuttle off to my Spanish class.
Oh.
I may or may not come back in time for the party, depending upon whether I can force myself to talk to people and pretend to be nice to them.
I'm dashing off to a photo shoot with Laura Pearman in between your workshop and the Atomicon party.
Shooting with Laura was hysterical because I just don't do cameras, and she treated me like a 5-year-old with a toy. That was the only way to get photographs of me. And then at the end of Atomicon itself, I'm going to sneak out before the end as well because I've got a Christmas present from my wife with some tickets.
You did tell me that.
Yeah. I've got tickets for the Kodo Drummers of Japan, so I'm sneaking out at the end to get down to the theatre.
You know, I guess I'll have to come back to the UK if you could hook me up with that speaker association.
There's a spare room just over there. If you ever need somewhere to stay, there's a spare room.
It is never hard to get me across the Atlantic.
It's just hard to get rid of you.
Yeah, you can't get rid of me. Okay, so we've already had the productive part of our chat. Now it's time for the silly bit.
Oh, yeah, because that was really serious.
The silly bit is 5 questions. All right?
Go for it. I'm ready.
And I need you to not overthink these. Don't overthink these. Just top your head. Okay. Question
You mean 1. Make up stuff without knowing what I'm talking about?
Pull things straight out of your ass. Okay. 1. Early bird gets the worm or second mouse gets the cheese?
Second mouse.
2. Batman or Superman?
Batman. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Amen.
Batman. Superman is a Boy Scout.
That's exactly what I say.
He's just a schmuck. I mean, okay, fine. I kind of like the way they've done in the latest DC universe in films and things. But seriously, how can you not love Batman? I mean, anybody who can just blow things up just because he's smart and rich, just gotta be Batman.
Love him. Love him.
Well, I use Batman quite a lot as a. It sounds really stupid, but to be serious for a second, I use Batman quite a lot as a confidence booster thing. Because there's 9 times out of 10 in my working week, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Just like everybody else in the world, I have no idea what I'm doing. And a really dirty trick I found to ask yourself at this point is, well, I have no idea what the heck to do. What would Batman do? And 99% of the time, whatever Batman would do, that's the thing. That's the thing that you should do. And it solves so many moral questions. It solves so many practical questions. I don't know what to do. What would Batman do? Batman would do this.
Tim is pointing out that Batman is just a guy in a suit, and that's what I love, because the fact is he doesn't have superpowers. He just decided to be a superhero and did the work to get there. So can we all?
You need to really read Dark Knight Returns Part 2. Basically, Batman and Superman go head to head, and the result, I have to say, is inevitable. The Boy Scout gets taken to the cleaners. The man in just a suit, takes the man from Krypton to the cleaners.
Of course he does. All right, so that was only question 2. So question 3. Learning from books, classes, or on the job as you go?
Books.
All right.
I was a research scientist for 24 years. Books, I need to know what I'm doing approximately before I have a go at it for fear of looking like an idiot.
That's fair. Number 4, PowerPoint, Prezi, Google Slides, or other?
Keynote.
That works. I couldn't remember the name of Keynote. I was going to put that on there.
Yeah. Keynote is like PowerPoint, but what PowerPoint should have been if it had been designed by people who cared about making presentations,
AKA Apple.
Engineers.
Yes. Yeah. Apple is designed by designers.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say Prezi is a one-trick pony.
Yes,
it does what it does very well, but once you've done that trick, you're running out of options at that point.
It's not exciting anymore.
A really dirty trick, though, if you want to, and this is a really dirty trick, is to create Prezis, export them as movies, and then stick them into your PowerPoint slide. So a slide that contains a Prezi, and it just looks freaking awesome because you can do the PowerPoint, and then it goes woo and does the Prezi thing, and then goes back to PowerPoint. You can embed PowerPoint in Prezi, but not nearly so elegantly.
Yeah, it goes better the other way around.
Yeah.
That is good to know. And finally, last but not least, question number 5. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow carrying a coconut?
32.5. Oh, no, wait. It's a square root of minus 13. Square root minus 13. Yep, I'm confident.
I'm going to, well, confidence is what it's all about. So I'm going to take the research scientist's word on that, even though you didn't ask me if it was African or European.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Fair.
It's the same speed. It's the same speed. I have no idea. Was I supposed to have prepped those questions?
No. All right. So again, I've been here with Simon Raybould, who is the presentation genius, and he is going to be speaking. I already put the link in, but I'm going to put it again. Next week's presentation workshop. Boop. There we go. Oh, geez. I did it wrong. Okay. Anyway.
Is it easier to say it, Christine? presentationgenius.eventbrite.co.uk.
Oh, that would do. Okay.
That would do it. There you go. Presentationgenius.event, because that retargets to where you're going. But to be honest, that's not going to be an awful lot of use to many of your listeners, is it? Because they ain't. I
am to the UK what David Hasselhoff is to Germany, which is to say I'm huge in the UK. So I've got peeps. You know, all one of our live viewers today is in the UK.
I saw somebody the other day who said that Hasselhoff was not cool, and we had to have words. We had to have words. He might. Yeah, someone's going to say he's just a man in a pair of swimming trunks now. They're just going to say Hasselhoff is just a man in a pair of swimming trunks. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about it. I'm spotting what's the similarity between Batman and Hasselhoff. It's a cool car. Maybe that says more about me than I want to admit.
I don't know. And also, while I'm putting links in the comment thread here, I'm also putting, of course, my link to Social Media Marketing World, which I am headed off to in a few weeks in San Diego. One of these years, Simon, we need to drag you out for that. If there is anyone who's out there in Simon land who can't schlep across the Atlantic, but would still like to learn from the absolute top minds in social media and digital marketing, you can buy a virtual ticket and buy it through my link, because then I get money.
That sounds like a plan. That just sounds like a much better plan than spending 9 hours on a plane.
I mean, it depends on what you're doing on the plane. I'm going to try to get a lot of work done on my way to Atomicon. We'll see how that goes. And then
so clearly, you're not flying economy then, are you? Nobody can work in economy.
Nobody can sleep in economy, which is why I'm going to get work done.
Oh, no, I can sleep anywhere, trust me.
I'm terrible, so I'm going to need to get tips from you on that. Anyway, also, I just want to give a shout out to next week's guest. Next week is another Brit. I'm Brit crazy, you guys, because next week I will actually be in England. So next week at 5 p.m., right after the final Atomicon talk, I'm going to duck into a corner somewhere with Teresa Heath-Waring to talk about content strategy. Right?
Good stuff.
Right? I get the good guests, man.
Yeah. I'm not going to watch that. Do you know why? Because I'm going to be seeing the Kodo Drummers of Japan, so I'm going to miss that.
Watch the replay.
I'll watch the replay.
Watch the replay. As soon as you're done, it'll put you to sleep now. All right. So thank you so much to Simon for being on today. I look forward to actually hanging out in real life next week and having a pint or four. And again, I do this every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern time on Facebook Live right here on Christine Gritmon Inc.'s page. And thanks, Simon. And bye, everybody.
My pleasure.